Hi, friends. AI is super cool, but sorry, it's not perfect. And we're still learning about some of the problems and dangers it can have. That's why it's so important to explore AI with a parent, teacher, or guardian to keep things safe. AI is amazing, but your safety always comes first. Ready to dive in together? Let's go.
Welcome to the AI for Kids podcast, where playtime, learning, and creating collide bit by bit. Ever wonder how your phone recognizes your face? How does a game learn to get harder as you get better? This is AI. This podcast is designed for kids like you and your human parents, making the complex world of AI easy to understand and, most importantly, fun. So are you ready to unlock the mysteries of artificial intelligence? Subscribe and join us on AI for Kids. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to AI for Kids. I am beyond excited. Anytime we get a young person on who's doing amazing things on this podcast, I just get elated and I can't wait to talk with Ehsan, the founder and host of the Ehsan Teen Education channel. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you started a YouTube channel?
I'm Ehsan. I'm 11 years old now. And well, I have a YouTube channel, like you said, named Ehsan. And well, I started it because when I was 9, I was actually bored. Like, I didn't really know what to do. And so then I felt like I should do something useful. I felt like if I am this person that just has nothing else to do, well, why don't I use this life to help us alive? So I was like, well, it's better if I help someone else. So then I started this YouTube channel, and it was also one of my passions because, like I said, I had nothing else to do. So with that passion in mind, I was like, what is buzzing? What is a very revolutionary thing nowadays? Well, then I was like, coding, right? I wanted to start out with that. And I was just so interested in building and creating. This is basically a YouTube channel meant for people who don't know what to do or who just want to be able to improve their skills even more, just like find their way. So that's why I started it.
I absolutely love that. And what age did you say you were when you had this epiphany?
9.
9.
It's been almost 3 years.
Awesome. I wish I was as far as you are at the age of 9. What is your favorite subject right now? And did you always enjoy technology and coding?
So at school, honestly, I used to love math as my first pick. I mean, now it's definitely one of my first picks, but honestly, I love sciences the most because I just think it's really fascinating to be able to build things from different states of matter and from different magnitudes, heat, energy. That's really just what fascinates me and blows my mind. I'm just trying to inform myself the most as I can, and then I take courses to try to learn more about this because I just love to build, and so that's really my favorite subject. So your question of did I always like coding? Well, no. Before I was 9, I mean, I didn't even like gaming at the time. So,
really?
Because first of all, I didn't really know much about it, and second of all, I was just not that interested at the time. So honestly, coding, I only really started to learn about it when I actually heard about it. Because honestly, at that age, I only heard about Scratch. And I was like, Scratch can't be it. Scratch is not really what I want to do. So then I found out about the more scripting coding with the text. And then I was like, that's what interests me. That's what fascinates me. Because it's not limited to blocks.
Right.
It's like a full library with a bunch of books, with a bunch of data, a bunch of different things I can do. So I was really just fascinated by that.
I love that because to your point, Scratch is for like very early learning. Like here's how you code with blocks, but other things like Python, they have these libraries of information. I love the way you explain that, like a library of books where you can pull everything you need to be able to build whatever it is that you're trying to build. Speaking of building, you mentioned that you like building. If you could build any AI tool to solve a problem, what would it do and why?
I would say that I'd have an AI tool which could actually help teachers go through their learning. I see a lot of teachers who have trouble actually teaching. A lot of are really good, but some of them just need help, and I think that's really useful if you could make an AI tool to actually put your needs in so the teacher can put out what do I actually want to be able to make my class do at the end of this year, and what are my ideals, what is my main focus on the class, where do I want the class to go, and what are your needs, and then it tells you, oh, you can do this is a possibility too. So I think that's really just a great idea that I just really love to build one day.
think teachers would love that idea as well, especially as they're trying to navigate in a world where they have so much to teach. They're not able to focus on students. Being able to have like a playbook almost from an AI, that would be so cool.
It takes a lot of time to actually think about it and make it.
That's so true, because they spend a lot of time doing their lesson plans, which they could be spending that time like tweaking the lesson plan if the AI helps, and then actually focusing on the students. I love that idea. And I know you started coding when you were very young, 3 years ago almost now. And I know you talked about what got you interested in coding, but how did you learn it? Like, what did you do after you got the interest? How did you actually dive into this topic?
Well, I started with Python, and I started by just getting tutorials, going in the actual Python editor, typing in some print statements, that stuff. But then I found out about this kind of game which would help you learn.
Okay.
Then I got into courses on that. Then I stopped because I was getting too much into the actual game and not actual on the coding. So then I actually moved to lessons, to courses, online courses. And then by the time I stopped with that kind of online coding game thing, then I moved to C++, which people consider a middle level language. So I'm just going to quickly go over that. In coding, you have 3 different levels. You have high end, middle end, and low level. So like in the high level, you have like Scratch, Python, Basic, very simple things. And there, it's some of the most simple languages in all of coding, but you can't do as much as if you were to go down to middle level or even low level. If you go to middle level, then you have things like Java, JavaScript, C++, C. And then if you go to low level, then you get to things like binary, and then you get to other things like that. So very deep, low level. And well, C++, people say that it's like 6 levels to binary. So it's like one of the closest ones to binary. Like I said, the lower you get, then the more control you have over the actual computer. So that's very useful. And in C++, it's supposed to be an upgraded version of C. And what it did is basically did this thing which we call object-oriented programming, which is basically having classes, which are like these huge files that contain a lot of data and that you can manipulate throughout so many files. So I just really think it's fascinating because C++ is really meant for fast running systems, for like microchips, all of that stuff. So I'm really just fascinated about that. And as you can see, the computer over there, that is actually a Raspberry Pi computer. I didn't start learning yet, but I'm soon going to start learning and soon be able to program chips with C++. So I'm just really excited.
Tell the listeners what Raspberry Pi is. I don't think we've talked about that on any of the published episodes yet.
So basically, Raspberry Pi is its own brand, which lets you actually program microchips. So microchips are like these green chip that you see inside of anything, any device. You can see it inside of remote controls, or you can see it inside of your phone if you open it, if you break it by mistake, or it's basically inside of any device, and it's basically what helps you to actually run it. So for example, my keyboard here, this is run by actual microchips, and actually it helps you actually make it run. So Raspberry Pi is one of those kind of softwares which lets you use C++ for a sort of code language to actually power and code with Raspberry Pi.
Oh, yeah. And for kids that are listening, your parents can get you one of those type of computers to help you if you're really interested in the fundamentals of some of the coding pieces. So definitely check that out. We'll attach some links in the bio as well for folks who want to explore that more. Why do you think it's so important for kids to learn about coding as it relates to their future?
As we can see nowadays, it's a new era. Now all of the jobs that we used to use with our own body, like our own hands that we can actually manipulate safely and we can manipulate physically, now it's completely changed. For example, in the groceries, in the supermarkets, all of that, in that industry, nowadays it's just getting controlled by these kind of machines, like those self-checkout things.
Oh, yeah.
That's not run by a person. There's not a person behind that actually. That's actually a program made by coding. And a lot of things, like even this thing that we're using to actually make this podcast, is actually made and programmed by coding. Honestly, coding's all around us, and we really need to use it because even Tesla's self-driving cars, even when we had to launch the rocket Apollo 11 to go to the moon, who saved the program? It was this woman who just saved it with actually coding, because everything is made by coding nowadays. some of the biggest accomplishments in mankind and all of this history is made by coding. Nowadays, if you want to make something revolutionary, you need to use coding and math combined. So I really think that's very important. I'd recommend go through coding and learn coding because honestly, it's the future. It's the future. If you want to make anything new, if you want to make anything revolutionary, if you want to make something that you really love, anything that you want to do, there's very high chance that involves coding.
How can kids not be so afraid of math when they think about coding? Because sometimes people get a little bit nervous about the thing math.
Well, coding itself is not that involved in math. If you go to the basics of coding, then it's not really involved in math. But then when you get to the more complicated things, when you go to the more different libraries, like I said, like when you go to new concepts, then that's where math gets into place. And even the most simple things that you might think of, it really involves math. And the way to not get scared of it is that math isn't that scary at all. I mean, even algebra. Algebra is not that scary at all. It's just that the actual new concept of it that you never actually saw, that's what makes you scared of it. It's like your first day at school ever, like in your whole life. It's a whole new thing. Like you start seeing numbers. It's like, what is that? And same thing with letters in algebra. It's like, what is that? And now with coding, which uses a lot of math that you actually learn at school and university and college and all of that, then that's you apply to coding. So honestly, you should not be scared of math because then you might be saying, oh, but you said university or even in college or in high school you learn math. What if I'm middle school or even like elementary? Well, don't be scared. Just ask one of your teachers to teach you some of this, or maybe just ask your parents to teach you this because it's not frightening at all. Once you learn the basics, it's easy. Like, I don't even know why we say algebra 2. Why do we even call it algebra 2? Because it's not scary at all. Once you learn algebra 2, you can go with the next level's algebra easily. Learn the basics, then you can go through everything. So you should not be scared.
It's not necessarily that math is scary. It's because it's something new, and I can resonate with that. People are always scared. Like you said, the first day of school, it's new. But if you have a teacher who's excited about it, or platforms like Khan Academy teaches it in a way that takes away the fear level. So thank you for reminding folks that it's not scary. And the thing I love about math, there's a right answer. 2 + 2 will always equal 4, and that will not change. So why is coding important for this thing called AI?
In AI, once we go in depth into it, we can see that it's really it's amazing and fascinating because there's machine learning inside of it. It takes a lot of what we think of neuroscience nowadays and puts it into actual coding. Everything like the nucleus or the cell or the neuron, all of that stuff is very nerdy, that's for sure. But what I'm trying to say is that all of this in nature, how our body's made and how our brain is made and all of these nervous systems, like that contributes to AI and machine learning. So honestly, coding is how you make AI, and coding is just how you make it like a layer deeper. Like you make a whole new brain when you make AI, when you make machine learning. You make like a whole new system, like a whole new life.
Someone once said to me, think of it like a fake brain. And you kind of are talking about that. You're making a whole new brain, a whole new system, a whole new reality that mimics our current reality and is able to give us information and learn through machine learning and deep learning and these different methods. That's so cool. And I appreciate you for talking about that. So when you think about doing your tutorials, like one of the things I really like about you is that you break things down very easily, and just interviewing you has been a breeze because you make it very simple and break it down. Can you talk a little bit about what's your favorite thing when you're making coding tutorials for other people your age?
Honestly, I just love to be able to do these tutorials because even if it gets 1 view, that's important because, I mean, even if it gets 0 views, who cares? Because one day someone might just be searching for something very specific that no one actually makes, and that people just go to those very popular kind of things in science. And like you might be wondering specific things about dark matter that maybe ChatGPT or AI won't be really able to answer to you because they're not that developed. But what if you have deeper questions into it that no one really has answers to? Well, me, honestly, I'm trying to do that with my YouTube channel. And now I'm starting off simple. I'm starting off with these like big topics. Then I started to go more into specific tutorials. And then in the future, once I'm able to grow from this, I'm going to be able to go to more specific things. By doing all of these tutorials, even if you just get 1 view or 0 views, it's going to be an archive. It's going to stay there in history. It's not going to be gone. I mean, if your channel goes, then it's going to be gone. But it's always going to be there. So if one day someone just stumbles upon one of your videos and it's the missing piece to be able to accomplish something big in their life, then that can just really change your whole life.
I love that. And I love that you pointed out, especially in a world where likes and views are like how we're measuring ourselves. If one view, that person is able to change their life and they're able to impact so many others from that, like you're doing something that's going to have impact and that's continuing to grow.
Yeah.
And you have way more than one view. I do know that.
If we change someone's life, then I'm okay with that. If I only change one person's life and I have a few views, then I don't care. If I'm able to change more than one life, then it means that I fulfilled what I was supposed to do. Because then that will really just fulfill my place in this world.
And it goes back to what you said in the beginning, is that you felt like you weren't doing that. And then you created something that allows you to now actually do that. That is amazing. And again, you are wise beyond your years. And I can't wait to continue to watch where you're going in the future. But before we keep going through this interview, I want to play a quick game. Are you down for it?
I'm down.
Awesome. So we play a quick game called Tech Trivia. I'm going to ask you some fun questions about AI or technology. We'll mix it up. And you try to answer as quickly as you can. Are you ready?
Let's go.
First question. You kind of already talked about this, but oh well, it's still a question I'm going to ask. What is the base level language that computers use to understand and execute commands?
Oh, a binary.
Yes. Earlier, I didn't ask you this because I knew I was going to get into this in tech trivia. Can you explain what binary is in a way that kid can understand?
All right. So basically, in binary, we only do the 0 and 1. So we don't do a base 10 number system, but we do a base 2. And we have 0 and 1. And basically, 0 is false in terms of binary, and 1 is true. So let's say, for example, I have my computer on or off. Off is 0 and 1 is on. And let's say, for example, I have a lever. Let's say I turn it to the right, which is true, which illuminates this light bulb. And when I turn it to the left, then it's going to make it be 0, which is off. So that's basically binary. You have 0 and 1, which is false and true. And basically, we use that to make different combinations inside of binary, and which basically controls every single electrical component inside of our computer. That might be a mouthful, but basically it means in our computer we have, like I said, chips. We have these concrete chips, and on the chips we have like these tiny electrical components. We actually can control that with binary, and you might be wondering, what is the use for that? Because it's only gonna like maybe illuminate a light. But no, it goes much deeper into that, because then you control your whole computer by only 0 and 1s, make up combos and make up many possibilities.
Thank you for breaking that down. And I think it's super helpful for people to know as they're learning these words, what they truly mean. As they are doing it themselves, they get what is the basis of this language. Are you ready for question 2?
Let's go.
In coding, what is a bug?
So basically a bug is this sort of error in the simplest terms. Just imagine it as this kind of bug on your back that you just want to kill, and it's just preventing you from doing work, and then it just annoys you.
I love that. Last question. What is a coding language that many kids start with? And we kind of talked about this already, but want to hear from you.
I wouldn't count Scratch as a code language. It's more programming. Programming is more like when you go with the blocks and that stuff. But if we're talking about coding in terms of text editing,
yes,
where I actually type with my keyboard, Python most used. But if I tell you my own point of view, what you should actually start with, then I would say that you should start with the hardest and not really the easiest. I mean, I have no problem if you start with Python, because Python is really a beginner language. It's made for that. But I would really recommend to start with C++, which is like one of the hardest languages to learn, because then you might feel discouraged at the beginning and you might feel like you want to quit, but no, try to learn a bit more. And then it's really good to start from the hardest, and you might be asking why. It really teaches you that coding is not like a walk in the park. It's not like a dog. I mean, even a dog is the same thing as coding. It doesn't do what you want it to do. So you need to be able to expect failure, and you need to be able to expect errors to be able to finally get the final product and to be able to make it work. Because it's not some Disneyland fantasy thing. You need to be able to face the error, because all of these errors, all of these failures, they're part of the journey. So honestly, if you can start with C++, it will be able to teach you concepts that every single coding language uses in a very early state. Because unlike Python, where you have a lot of functions and a lot of things that you can use as a beginner, if you go in C++, right off the bat, you're going to have to be using these to do anything. It's really good to learn as skill as a programmer and as a coder, I mean, especially when you're trying to learn other things. Because then I recommend start with the hardest, and then even if it's not simple, but in the beginning, just like writing the first lines, it was just like, what am I getting into? So then once you get to the hardest part, then you can easily do the rest.
Awesome. So let's talk about the world that you also live in around your martial artist. You are a horse rider and an Alpine skier, all at the ripe age of 11. How do these hobbies help you with your coding and YouTube channel, or do they even connect?
Well, they actually don't connect. I just really do this because I think that's very important, and I really just believe in having this kind of open skills. Like, don't be dependent on some specific thing, because then you can be slacking and lacking in other things. Also, I just need to touch grass, so it's really good to be able to not only be fit, touch grass, and also to have a lot of skills. But yeah, I need to touch grass.
I'm also a person who needs to touch grass because it makes you feel more grounded and reminds you that we're all here trying to make the world a better place for sure. Can you share some tips that kids should be thinking about when they're trying to learn coding or even creating their own YouTube channel? Because that's now a big thing. When I was your age, we didn't have YouTube, but now that's an actual job, career, hobby. Talk a little bit more about how kids can get involved in coding or creating.
Well, first of all, in coding, I'd really recommend you to go first the principles, which includes these things called variables, which are like these small containers. Then you want to go through really these functions. And like once you learn all of these basics called variables, functions, for loops, while loops, else, if statements, like 3 different types, especially in C++. You have else, if, and then you have else if. And then you also have classes, and then header files. And once you mastered all of that, then really you are good to go to maybe continue your journey in C++ and learning new libraries to expand your skills, or change coding language once you've really gotten good at the basics. Because once you learn that, you can do whatever you want. Those are the basics. And then you can go over new software. Then you can go over new libraries, new things that you can use to code with, or then you can go even with new code languages. I mean, it didn't take me that long of a time, like maybe it took me 5 months, man. Then I was really able to master the basics, and I mean, now I really got to the point where I really hardened it. Mm-hmm. And I started when I was like 6 coding, but I started when I was like 9 C++, yeah.
And then what about for YouTube? How do kids start a YouTube channel?
Depends what you're trying to do. First of all, my first recommendation is that if you're trying to go to something that you're trying to like teach, or if you're trying to go for something that you're trying to upload, have an audience. Try to have something specific. You don't want to go make a YouTube channel to have like a whole world as your viewers.
Right.
I mean, of course, that would be great. But then you want to also have a specific kind of people at a specific age to be able to actually have your channel based on them. Because then, according to your videos, then you might not really know at the beginning who really likes these videos the most. But then eventually, while you do your channel, like for maybe 1 or 2 years, then you have eventually like these statistics of your channel. I mean, even when you start, you have these statistics, but it's better to wait like maybe for 5 months, 6 months, or even 1 year, which is the best. Then you have like statistics which show you what is like the best age, what kind of gender looks the most at the YouTube channel, and what kind of content do they like the most, and that stuff. So what are the topics according to the videos? Then that can really help you with the boost of the channel. If you're trying to have like this audience, which your videos are meant for all ages, then that's fine. But then if you're trying to do something with your age, starting young, then you want to be able to do something for your age if you're trying to do something for your age. Then if you get older and older, and then your thing which is meant like for small kids doesn't really work out, then I'd recommend like changing, adapting. I mean, it's always good to have change, and it's always good to adapt. I mean, like the Romans, they did not change. I mean, first of all, they stopped working eventually, and then they didn't know what change was, and didn't know how to adapt. So they weren't able to change and adapt to that, so then they crumbled and fell. So you need to be able to have a lot of change in your channel. You might think, oh, I started my YouTube channel, now I'm always going to be doing this. But no, you need to be able to do change, and you need to be able to go on with new things like I did. I mean, I didn't stay with one thing, then I expanded, I went to new things. So you should really do that.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. Because I think for even me, as I think about YouTube, I've seen like the ability to need the change. If you're talking to kids, it's very different language. And like if you think about the Ryans, who were some of the early kid creators,
Yeah.
Ryan has to shift as he changes, or if he plans to stay with kids, he can figure out how to make sure that still works.
I mean, now currently he's actually downfalling. He's 13 years old, and his content is more based for small kids,
Yeah.
So it's really like you need to be able to adapt to it, because then the content then eventually doesn't work out,
Agree 100%. And I know he has like a movie coming out, all types of things, but he realized his niche is, like you said, is not taking the kids at his age with him, is going back to the kids he started with.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play another game. It's called Two Truths and a Dream. So you're going to tell us 2 true facts about your life and 1 dream you had as a kid. You are a kid, so this relates very well to you. And I'll try to guess which one is the dream. And the kids at home will also try to guess. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, go for it. So tell me 2 truths and a dream and mix them up so I can't guess.
Okay. And once you find the answer, be sure to laugh. Like, don't be restrained to maybe I get offended. No problem with that.
Okay.
So, okay. So I started coding since I was 6.
Okay.
I speak fluently 3 languages.
Okay.
And I have a lot of friends.
Okay. So you started coding while you were 6. Kids, remember the interview and remember all the things that we've talked about thus far. Second is you speak 3 languages. And the third is you have a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the first one, you kind of gave us the answer. I know earlier you said you talked about being 9 and then you talked about early coding at 6. So I imagine that was scratch. So that one is likely true. Speaking 3 language, I feel like you likely do. I know right now you're in Abu Dhabi, if I'm not mistaken. I know you speak English. You likely speak a second language. So I would maybe say you speak a third, but I don't know. And then you have a lot of friends. I feel like you're also on YouTube and you're very social. I feel like you're the kid who would actually have a lot of friends. I think you're trying to trick me with the 3 languages. I think you speak 2. So I'm going to say your dream is 3 languages.
Nope, I do speak 3 languages.
What? So the dream is a bunch of friends?
So I have 1 or 2 like trustworthy friends, like really good friends, friends.
Uh-huh.
But then also, I mean, I am sociable. It's just that a lot of people actually hate from what I'm doing from my channel. I don't know why.
I wish I was at your age doing what you were doing, because I would be in a different place. So maybe it's also they don't understand like what you're doing. Because one thing I do want kids to realize is during your age, that's where the brain gets to mastery. So the fact that you're doing this right now, interviewing, coding, etc., you will be much better than a person who starts this at 20 and even codes for longer than you or speaks for longer than you, just because you're doing it when the brain is most primed to develop mastery at your age. So even though they don't get it, you'll be just fine, and I'm not worried about you.
Okay, so now about the 3 languages. So guess which ones I speak.
I know you speak English. I'm assuming Arabic, and I'm assuming Spanish, because Spanish is just a top language, or maybe Mandarin or Cantonese, so some version of Chinese. What do you speak?
I speak English, like you said, fluently.
Uh-huh.
French, fluently.
I was going to say French, but I was like, I don't know about that one. Okay.
I mean, I am French. So actually, you were saying Arabic, because actually I have Arabic origins from Algeria.
Okay.
I'm originally from there. I mean, I don't speak the language really well at all. But my 3rd language is actually Swedish.
Swedish? Why Swedish?
My mom was Swedish.
Ah, there we go. Sorry, you made that really easy. I was trying to do like based on the region of the area. Like I thought French. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. So I pushed that one. And then I picked Chinese or Mandarin or Cantonese because they're most popular languages. I'm like, he probably picked the ones that are most likely to be used across the world. That's good.
You see the poster back there? That's in my channel. And basically what it means is that in Swedish, Ehsan means like the only one, number 1. Like I made like a kind of joke, like the number 1.
I like that.
Ehsan, so it's like.
I was going to ask you what the Ehsan meant, because I did not know what that meant. So I'm like, it's not your name. I know the second part, of course, is your name. Very interesting. What is the most important or most exciting project you've worked on so far that you want to share?
I haven't really been working on any projects, but now I am working on a project. I'm basically working on this application. And this app I'm coding in C++ with this software called Qt Creator. So I'm coding with C++ into it. Like I said in the beginning about the AI tool for teachers, I am not doing an AI tool. I mean, eventually I'm going to try to put that on it because I'm currently also learning machine learning with C++. But it's meant to help teachers with their learning. So I'm building that currently.
So the idea you had for AI earlier, we're going to hopefully see it in the future in the hands of teachers and help them with their learning. That's amazing. How do you think kids can use AI to make positive impact in their communities?
Honestly, I have no clue. I don't know what they want to do. Just do what you want to do. Maybe there's something that you always wanted to do. Maybe that's some of these people that always wanted to pay back for what they did for you. Or maybe you just want to be able to help someone else in the world. Try to just make something that helps someone else. If you don't have anyone to help, just try to make something positive. Always try to use your life to help other lives because that's much more valuable. Of course, you can have a great life, but honestly, I think that's really important to spend a bit of your time to help other people in the world and just try to change other lives.
I love that. And how can kids stay motivated to learn coding and keep exploring new things? Kids nowadays have so many things going on in their lives. How do you suggest they keep motivated to keep going as they're trying to figure out this very new world with a whole bunch of stuff going on?
If you really want to do this, if you really want to build something, if you really have this kind of passion and hobby, then do it. If you really just don't have time, if you have a lot of things with your friends, or if you have a lot of fun to do, or if you have a lot of work, then try to control your time. Try to say, okay, so if you have any deadlines or anything like that, try to see, okay, when do I have this for? You know what I mean? I have a test or something like that. Try to organize yourself and try to adapt. Use your actual passion and dream. Not only if it's coding, but try to use that time and try to put it in the blank spots when you just have time. Maybe it might take a bit of your fun time away. If it's really what you want to do, then it should not matter. So it's either you really want to do it, or it's either you don't really want to do it, or if you're not that sure, if you want to do it but you just don't have the time, and if you don't want to do it but you don't want to remove your fun time, then it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't actually want to do it. It just means that you should just try to be able to find what you like least doing, and then you can maybe X that out, use a bit of that time, and then the more you get free time, you should dedicate that to your actual dream and your passion and what you really want to do.
The passion, it can be fun. Even though it may feel like work, it can also be fun. So I love that you point that out.
I mean, it might be work in the beginning, especially when you're trying to learn. Then you can't.
Yeah, when you're learning it, yeah.
But that's what I'm feeling currently. It's just a lot of work, especially learning in the process. But once you're actually able to use that and apply it to actually your dream, your passion, to create new things that you actually really want to do, or even just help other people, then that can really be very valuable. And I'm telling you, it's worth the actual effort.
Before we go, do you have any advice for kids who want to learn more about coding and technology that you want to share?
First of all, I recommend you to see my YouTube channel, of course.
Oh, yeah.
What would it be without Ehsan Teen? So I'm trying to say that, so there's the name behind here, Ehsan. So I really recommend you guys to go on the YouTube channel. If you're trying to get into coding, on the top left, there's this hashtag sign, and there's a number. And most of the time there's a number. If there's not a number, it means it's a bonus video. So if there's a number, then try to go through those in order in the coding videos. We're actually making coding tutorials. Go through them in order from all the way down. The first C++ video I made with the lowest number there, you know what I mean? Like the thumbnail with the first coding C++ video. From video to come all the way to the new video that I've got right now that I just posted. So just try to go through these videos, learn, try to code, try to go on there. And then from that, you might get fascinated, you might not get fascinated. And then you might just find out what you actually want to do in coding if you're really inspired by that.
That is awesome. So anything else you want to share with our listeners before we head out today?
I think that you should also really just have confidence in yourself. You should go for it. If you really want to do it, then you need to be ready to be able to sacrifice.
Oh, yeah. There's a book that I just read called Find Your People. And it basically talks about finding the friends that align with your life. And even though right now you found 2 of those people, as you continue to grow and continue to develop, you're going to find your people. I have no worries about you, Ehsan. You're just an amazing person. I just want to thank you for taking time out today because what you're doing is so cool. The fact that you're thinking about kids and even adults, I'm going to go on your website to check it out. you're making it where it's easier for people to understand this topic, and you're doing it in a way that makes folks excited. Like, I love watching your videos on Instagram and just seeing how excited you are about topics and how you even talk to people and interview people. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to thank all the listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to AI for Kids and stay curious. Thank you for joining us as we explored the fascinating world of artificial intelligence. Don't keep this adventure to yourself. Download it, share it with your friends, and let everyone else in on the fun. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. See you next time on AI for Kids.